I was exhausted, but the way he touched me, like I was the only woman alive, made me forget everything. That night, I realized passion doesn't need words. It just needs the right moment. Please don't forget to subscribe and comment. That night, I was completely drained. My body ached from the long day, and all I could think about was sinking into my soft bed and melting into my pillow. The silence of the evening had a certain stillness to it, one that whispered for rest, not passion. But Blake had other plans. We had only been married for 6 months, and somehow his desire for me had only grown stronger. I should have felt flattered, cherished even, and I did. But there was something different in his eyes that night, a fire that didn't burn out, even after everything we'd already shared. That look, that hunger, it both thrilled and intimidated me. I had just stepped out of the shower, a towel loosely wrapped around me, my wet hair clinging to the nape of my neck. The scent of vanilla body wash lingered in the air, curling around me like a warm cloud. I stood in front of the mirror, wiping away the steam and looking at my own reflection, tired but glowing. Maybe it was the heat of the water or the fact that I knew Blake was watching me through the cracked door, but my skin tingled with a strange awareness. "I thought you were asleep," I said softly when I finally noticed his presence behind me. "I couldn't sleep," he murmured, stepping into the bathroom, his voice low and thick with something unspoken. Blake's hands found my waist, his touch firm, yet gentle. He didn't say another word. He didn't need to. The way his fingers explored the damp curve of my back spoke louder than any whisper could. I closed my eyes, torn between surrendering and resisting. I was tired, but something about the way he touched me always made me forget myself. We didn't rush. Blake had this way of moving with patience, of reading every tiny shift in my breath, every quiet flutter in my chest. He led me back to the bedroom, the towel slipping from my body without a word. The sheets were cool against my skin, but the warmth of his breath made everything else melt away. I remember the way he traced his fingers along my arms, over my ribs, brushing lightly over places that made me tremble. He didn't need to touch me deeply to make me feel everything. Every breath became heavier. Every inch of me came alive. Even though I had no strength left, I couldn't say no to him. Not because I was pressured, but because the intimacy between us had become something I craved even when I didn't know I needed it. There was something about being desired so fully, so respectfully, that gave me strength again. Our rhythm was slow, hypnotic, like the lull of ocean waves at night. We weren't just bodies. We were stories meeting on warm skin, secrets exchanged through breathless kisses. It was quiet, but it wasn't silence. It was the sound of sheets rustling beneath us, of sighs held and released, of whispered names and soft gasps that lingered in the shadows. Afterwards, Blake held me so tightly, like he wanted to merge into me. "I love that you still let me in. Even when you're tired," he whispered against my neck. I laughed gently. "I didn't let you in, Blake. You found your way." There was a kind of sacredness to that moment. No expectations, just closeness. My legs tangled with his hand resting over my heart, as if he could feel the echo of everything we'd just shared. I realized that night that real desire wasn't always about energy or urgency, it was about presence. And Blake was fully present with me, always. The next morning, I woke up with his arms still around me. My exhaustion had faded, replaced with a kind of emotional fullness I hadn't felt in a while. As I got dressed, slipping into my robe, Blake reached for me again, that same look in his eyes. Again. I teased, shaking my head with a soft smile. He didn't answer, just kissed me. Slow, deep, meaningful. And once more, the world outside faded away. It wasn't about perfection or performance. It was about connection. Sometimes hidden, sometimes playful, sometimes tender. What mattered was that even in my tiredness, he made me feel alive, seen, and desired, not as a fantasy, but as his wife. It's strange how passion doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers, lingers, and waits patiently in the quiet spaces of our everyday lives. And when you finally answer its call, even through exhaustion, you find a part of yourself you didn't know you were missing. And Blake, he always knew how to find that part of me. That night, I learned that love isn't always loud. It's soft sheets and softer touches. It's knowing glances and stolen kisses. It's the space where exhaustion meets affection, and where even tired bodies can speak the loudest love. We made breakfast together that morning. Nothing fancy, just toast, eggs, and his terrible coffee. But he kept brushing past me in the kitchen, teasing touches on my waist, a kiss behind my ear, a quiet reminder that even in the daylight that spark was still there. Later that week, we went out to dinner, and I wore that burgundy dress he loved so much. All night, his hand never left mine, and in the cab ride back, he leaned into my ear and whispered something that made me blush like I was 17 again. "I'm never done discovering you," he said. It wasn't about control or possession. It was about admiration, mutual desire, and rediscovery. And that night, once again, in the soft comfort of our room, Blake proved those words true. He made me feel like the only woman in the world. Even when I was tired, he didn't push, he invited. And I chose to accept over and over again, because with him, even my weariness became a canvas for something more. A night I thought would end in silence became a chapter I'll never forget. And in the days that followed, his looks, his touch, his laughter, all reminded me that love, when done right, makes room for both rest and romance, for exhaustion and ecstasy, for stillness and spark. And that's what keeps our story unfolding, night after night.